All righty. Good Saturday morning. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we are tracking storms in Dallas today. Dallas, Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Wichita, Little Rock, all in the path for storms today. So let's get right into it. As always, put your weather questions in the comments section, and we will answer your questions. Now, I will say today that we have a storm risk out in the New York area, New England area. I'm not going to talk too much about that because it's I don't think that we have a ton of viewers out there. It's not our main concern today. We're really going to be talking more about Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas today. And not only the risk for today, but also the risk over the next few days. So let's take a look at that hail risk today. This is from the Storm Prediction Center. But you'll see the hail forecast here in just a few minutes. Tomorrow, another risk for storms. Dallas is now included in this risk, but the bullseye is really on Oklahoma City and Wichita for tomorrow. Another round of storms on Monday. That's shifting to the east just a little bit and then go farther out to the east. So if you are in some of our states that got hit last night, you could have another round of storms for Tuesday. So we are still in this very active pattern. We're going to be there for a while. Hey, don't forget about our giveaway. We've seen so many people tagging us in their posts about how Hail Trace has helped their company succeed, and we want to see that continue. So tag Hail Trace, use the hashtag 15 years of Hail Trace, and you could win a drone. It is retailing at $600, but you could get it for free to enter into this contest. We will have the drawing at the very end of the month. All righty, moving on to what happened last night. What happened last night? Did you guys see the storms? How could you not? Just all night long, we saw storms really fire from the early morning hours yesterday to the afternoon. St. Louis got a tornado. We're expecting that to be an EF3 tornado. We have some crazy videos and pictures online of this very, very impressive tornado. There's that storm. We were actually live yesterday covering that tornado. Many, many more tornadoes across the southern portion of Missouri. We had a very impressive storm in Sideston, Missouri. I don't know why I always forget this name, but I have a picture of it right here. Sikeston, Missouri. Do you guys want to see a picture? What do you guys want to see from this forecast? Do you want to see like the storm pictures from yesterday, or do you want to get just right into the forecast and talk about the storms in Texas and Oklahoma today? While I wait for your comments, I'll show you a picture of this tornado out in Sikeston, Missouri yesterday. So this is the same one that came through. Oh, my computer is being a little funky here, but this is the same tornado that came through Paducah, Tennessee. So it's the same storm, or Paducah, Kentucky. Same storm. You can see the tornado right there, but this was in Missouri. Alrighty, Joseph is saying we want to see the forecast. So let's get into it. Yeah, very busy day yesterday. You can see all of our 3-4 star maps on our Facebook page or at hailtrace.com. Did you guys see the storms in Dallas last night? We had a lot of fun tracking those storms. We were having fun on the live stream last night. Now, we take it very seriously, but we also talk back and forth and we say, you know, here's what you can expect. Here's what we're watching for right now. We saw some really large hail in Leota. Is that the correct town? All of these towns kind of run together. Just outside of Georgetown, Texas. Anyway, you can look at hailtrace.com. I won't spend time looking up these towns. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Alrighty, moving on here. Skipping past temperatures. Let's go to the most at-risk cities today. So here we are officially in forecast mode. I hope enough people have joined by now. I try to stall for the first 2 or 3 minutes so that people can jump on, but let's get to your forecast mode. Joseph said he wants to see the forecast, so let's do it. Storms in the path for cities in the path for storms today. There we go. Dallas and Waco. You know what I would do? I'm actually going to take this graph and extend it from the moderate to the high category because I would put Dallas in the high risk for today. And you'll see that in some of our graphs here in just a minute. Dallas in the high category, Waco in the moderate category for storms today, Abilene, Oklahoma City, and Tulsa in that low to moderate, just so in between those two categories, low to moderate risk there. And Wichita, we're keeping you low today. However, tomorrow, better chance for storms out in Wichita. Here's your future radar. What we're going to see is some dry line action happening today. We've got a lot of moist and very unstable air anywhere from Dallas to Oklahoma City. So you can kind of see that area that we have some unstable air. We also have a dry line setting up right here, dry air out to the west into places like Amarillo, very moist, unstable air to the east. What we're going to see are those storms popping off of the dry line this afternoon, and I'll give you a very quick timeline, but we'll zoom down into Dallas in just a minute. I have storms popping off right around 3 o'clock, moving into Dallas around, what was my timeline for Dallas? 4 to 7 o'clock, at the very latest, 10 o'clock. Oklahoma City timeline, about 4 to 8 o'clock, very latest, 10 o'clock. So there's your storms today. Here's your storms tomorrow, really targeting Kansas tomorrow. But we could see a few supercells down in Oklahoma. Your hail forecast model, significant hail model here. What are we watching for? Well, you want those oranges to be mixed in here. You want those reds, and what you really want, what we saw yesterday were some of these pinks mixing in here. That's really what you want. So let's see, can we see any pinks? Ooh, look at that. We could see some hail out in central Oklahoma. I think Dallas, we could also see some really decent hail sizes. So what do I have for your max forecasted hail size today? Ready? Wait for it. Drum roll, please. Softball size hail. I absolutely think that we could see hailstones larger than the size of a softball today. 3 inches plus, I think, is absolutely possible for today. Of course, most of those hailstones are going to be smaller, between quarter and baseball size, but could you get an isolated softball size hailstone? Absolutely. Here is your hail forecast. You can see those large hailstones. And actually, I should have added in a little purple risk here. I would have brought that purple risk right through Dallas. But what's your likelihood for storms today? Dallas, I think that you have a really good chance for storms. I put you in the high likelihood. Oklahoma City, moderate risk today, that medium level. Waco, I would say medium to high. Tulsa, low to medium. Storms get more sparse the farther north that you go into places like Tulsa and Wichita. Little Rock, very similar. What about the East Coast, or the Gulf Coast rather? Shreveport to Jackson. I think these storms could sustain their strength as they track to the east, slowly starting to fizzle out as we head into the late night hours tonight. Wind forecast here, most of our wind gusts will be between that 60 to 70 mile per hour wind, 60 to 70 mile per hour zone. However, some of our stronger gusts, very isolated here, could get up to 75 to 80 miles an hour. We saw that yesterday. I think we can absolutely see that again for today. And I'm waiting on my graphics to load. Oh no. It's okay. I have a backup. So, oh, we're back. Hooray. Okay, that wasn't bad. Whenever I remote in like this, so I'm obviously working from home today, right? It's a Saturday. It is Saturday morning. I'm working from home today. Whenever I remote in like this, it's not always a foolproof way to do the forecast. Let's move on. Tornado risk today. Bullseye for Texas, right? Dallas, you are in the level 2 risk for storms today. You will see multiple tornadoes in this area, the DFW and surrounding areas. And I want to see what the National Weather Service is saying, or the Storm Prediction Center. What are they saying about the potential for strong tornadoes here? So the National Weather Service is saying a couple of tornadoes. They're not mentioning anything about the strength of tornadoes today. So, that risk for, strong to violent tornadoes, I think will be pretty low today, but a couple of tornadoes are still possible. And they're saying a damaging wind risk also pretty likely, especially on the eastern side of Dallas. So oftentimes what we talk about whenever that hail risk is high, you're likely to see some lower wind threats. So we're talking, 65, 70 mile per hour wind. But whenever that wind threat starts to go up, the hail sizes will go down. So that's just something a very common trend that we see. I told you I'd zoom right into Dallas and show you the timeline here. Let's get into it. The storms will fire right around 3 o'clock this afternoon. We're going to see them track into Dallas closer to 5 o'clock. Again, we've got these supercells, right? There. Maybe a few clusters of storms. So you're really watching for these supercells. These discrete supercells will have time and space to organize. That's going to help them to form those larger hailstones. This model, the HER model, wants to bring in a supercell right into northern Fort Worth. We have someone on here oftentimes who always asks about Crystal Lake. There you go. That's Crystal Lake right there, am I right? Moving on here into the late evening hours, so dinner time, it's probably going to be pretty stormy. Storms are going to be coming through DFW as we head into the evening hours. We're talking about 7:30, 8 o'clock, but I have my severe timeline in Dallas ending at 8 o'clock. I actually think I put on here 8:30. I was very specific today. So yes, 5 to 8:30 is my official timeline in DFW. What about Oklahoma City? Let's go up to Oklahoma now. Pretty similar. Storms will fire. Oh, I want to go back a little bit. There we go. Perfect. Storms will fire right around 4 o'clock this afternoon. Again, it's a lot of dry line action here. We're going to continue to see those storms out in western and southern Oklahoma as we head into the evening hours. Now, if a few of these storms could get up to Oklahoma City, that could bring us 2 rounds of storms, not only from this southern line of storms, but also from this western line. So we'll see those storms continuing into the late night hours. I think my timeline for Oklahoma City was 4 to 8, but the very latest 10 o'clock. And that's great because that means that you can get out and, work any of these storms that you need to, and then get to bed as it gets dark. You don't have to stay up for these storms late at night. Danny, great question. Anything in Oklahoma City? We're talking about it right now, so perfect timing. Danny, the timeline for Oklahoma City is 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock this evening, latest 10 o'clock tonight. So again, once the sun goes down, you'll probably be able to sleep easy tonight without any severe risk. Tulsa is a little different. Tulsa, your storm timeline is going to be a bit later, most likely a nocturnal event with some high winds likely in your area. That potential for tornadoes is still there, but I think it goes that tornado threat goes down the farther east that you go. And some large hail also possible in Tulsa. However, I did bring the hail sizes down in Tulsa. I would expect to see more like golf ball size hail as opposed to your large softballs that you can see down in Dallas. And there's your storms for today. Should we get into storms tomorrow? Here's a little recap. There you go. Now this model, this is the NAM, wants to initiate storms farther to the east. So instead of initiating them in western Oklahoma, this model wants to bring them a little bit farther to the east into the central portion of the state. That could increase the timeline. That could bring the timeline a little bit earlier. Still within that 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock time zone, but you're probably on the very early side of that as opposed to the later side. That would bring our timeline earlier in Tulsa as well. After that, storms move out to Little Rock. It will be dark as storms come into Little Rock. And then they'll move off to the east. So we'll see these storms out along the Gulf Coast into the late night hours tonight and into early tomorrow morning, which brings us to Sunday. Yes, Sunday we have another chance for storms across both Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas. Now, Sunday, I think that we have a better chance for those extreme storms, right? Sunday, I think that we'll have a really good chance for strong tornadoes, large hail, high winds. If I were to rate these levels today, especially in Oklahoma, your risk today would be like a level 2 on a scale of 5. Tomorrow, we're going to say like 2.5 to 3 on a scale of 5. So we're just going to take a step up for storms tomorrow. Storm timing for tomorrow will be anywhere between the afternoon hours, maybe a few hours past lunchtime, and then into the late evening hours. So again, we're talking about the heat of the day, about 2 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Really tomorrow, the bullseye for storm confidence, we're pretty confident that storms will form in Wichita. Got a pretty good tornado threat up there, rain in Kansas City, and a tornado and hail threat in Kansas City as well. What about your max forecasted hail size on Sunday? I kept it at softball size hail. That's going to be very, very isolated. But I think it's still possible to see softball size hail on Sunday. Here's your tornado forecast on Sunday. We've got that level 3 for Wichita and northern Oklahoma. That level 3 risk for strong to violent tornadoes are possible anywhere from Wichita to Salina, Kansas. And then Oklahoma City is in that level 2 risk. Kansas City also in the level 2 risk, just barely missing out. Future radar here. Again, for anyone who's just new jumping on. This is the NAM. Storms today, storms like juicy storms on forming down in northern Texas right around 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Then into Oklahoma between about 2 and 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. Into Kansas a little bit later. Excuse me, hiccup there. Into Kansas a little bit later than that, but more widespread storm coverage across Kansas. By Monday, we have another chance for storms. That shifts out to the east just a little bit. So western Oklahoma, just about out of this risk here. It'll be more of a central and eastern Oklahoma issue. So here's your risk for Monday. Hang on, gotta get through. Here's Sunday. There's Monday. Again, western Oklahoma out of that risk there, but central to eastern Oklahoma included in the risk. Got southeastern Kansas and most of Missouri included in this risk as well. Tuesday, we see that risk shift off to the east. We're talking about the Tennessee Valley. Any place that got hit yesterday has another chance to get hit once again on Tuesday. And I know it says Wednesday, but we don't have a risk on Wednesday yet. All of these storms brought to you by a low pressure system. What we have right now is we have a low pressure system sitting off the west coast here, or a trough. So you see that like trough, like the dip in the jet stream there, sitting off on the west coast. What it does is think about dropping a stone into a pond. You know how we have a ripple effect where we see or little ripples coming from way far downstream. That's what's happening here. So we have this powerful trough that's coming through the west coast right now, and it's essentially creating a ripple effect, shooting off these short waves ahead of the trough, and that's why we have storms for today, tomorrow, Monday, and Tuesday. Tuesday we get the actual trough in here, and then it should slow down a little bit after that. We start to see a ridge, high pressure form by Wednesday and Thursday, and oftentimes high pressure means calmer, sunnier, quieter weather. Temperatures should heat up time. Nice cool weather as we head into. However, we've got another trough again, west coast again, real day weekend. Too far out. It's too soon to tell right now. We cannot tell you if there's going to be storms real day weekend or not. However, I would not count it out, I would absolutely make sure that you're watching the weather next weekend. And there's your forecast. Thanks for joining us today. I have about 5 minutes if anyone has any questions that I can answer before I hop off of here. My computer is running quite slow. It says it's running out of battery. And that's because I'm never. Alrighty, what questions do we have? Kevin says, thanks for your updates and forecasts. We appreciate it, Kevin. Thanks for watching. Danny asks, if you were betting, which weather model are you betting on? So for those of you who weren't here earlier, we were talking about the NAM versus the HER. You know, the HER did a really good job. I'm always a HER fan, but there's biases in both. The HER did a really good job handling the storms in St. Louis yesterday, basically nailed both the timing and the location of those storms, favoring the north side of the city, as opposed like the northwest side of the city as opposed to the south side. So I think the HER did a really good job yesterday. Let's take a look. This is the HER. And if you look at the area of the dry line here, let's just pull up some other models here. So give me a minute to share my screen. So what you can see here, this is our dew points. That's what we have right now. This is miserable. Down in Texas, look at their dew points, 77-degree dew point. Miserable. That's insane. But if you can identify the dry line, what you can do is you can say, well, it's farther out to the west. So yeah, we'll probably see storms fire out farther out to the west. Well, the HER has a better handle on that. If it moves closer to the cities, then the NAM has a better handle on what storms will do. I'm going to look at the Oklahoma mesonet. Take a look at the dry line here. And I can show you this map as well. I think that this map is a pretty easy way just to identify the forecast or the fronts. So we've got our dry line out to the west. The National Weather Service still wants to keep it out in the western side of Oklahoma and Texas. And we've got another front extending across the state. That's really dividing our moisture, where we have very, very moist air farther down to the south here. And the air is a little bit drier farther up to the north, right? So if the dry line stays out to the west and doesn't retreat a little bit to the east, then I think that the HER is going to do a better job handling these storms today. So if I were betting, I would bet on the HER. But we'll see. Here's the HER model. And here's the NAM. Yeah, the NAM wants to jump the gun, bringing in storms just a little bit earlier. Fun questions this morning. Alrighty, well, thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox. We do a noon forecast every weekday, but on big severe weather outbreak days like this, we do the weekends as well. We also do live weather coverage. We were on covering storms in Texas last night until like 10:30, until very late last night. So we'll be doing that again for today. Give us a follow and subscribe to all of the channels that you're watching this forecast on right now. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. So we will see you back here by about noon tomorrow for your forecast, but probably before then, covering storms this afternoon. Alrighty. Have a good Saturday. We'll see you guys soon.